Alberobello is a small Italian town like any other at a first glance. The streets are narrow and hilly, houses are white, the weather is pleasant and life is slow. But if you take a closer look at some of the houses, you will think you landed in a fantasy book. Small houses with conical roofs are dotted everywhere around you. Upon closer investigation, you will find that these small dwarf houses are actually real and people still live in them. In case you have decided to see what a Hobbit house could look like, you should go to Alberobello. The land of dwarf houses is a small town in Puglia, a region in southern Italy, not far from the city of Bari. It is famous for its unique small historical houses called trullo, plural trulli. The name of the city originated from the medieval Latin name of the region, Shiva Arboribelli, the wood of the tree of war. The trulli are dry stone dwellings with conical roofs. A typical trullo has thick walls and is either round-shaped or square. In Alberobello, most of the trulli are square-shaped. Usually a trullo is a single-story small building. It is technically hard to construct a multi-story trullo. There are only a few two-story trulli in the town. The second floor in these constructions is made of wood, but this happens rarely. It is easier and more practical to construct several small trulli than a big one. That is why big families in Alberobello were living not in one single trullo, but rather in trulli groups. Big families could have a group of dozen trulli constructed next to each other. The interior of a trulli is mainly made from wood. The roofs are not painted, but the walls are traditionally painted white. Trullo is a rural building type. It was meant to serve as field shelters and storehouses. Alberobello is a unique case where they became the main lodgment for the local population. The history behind Alberobello is of course connected with money and cunning Italian aristocrats. When in the 14th century the previously uninhabited area became under the control of the Count of Conversano, he and his successors decided not to construct permanent dwellings here for their peasants. As far as the taxes for the lands with no permanent settlements were lower than those with officially recognized towns. In order to pay small taxes, Alberobello was supposed to be classified as an uninhabited area. For this reason, trulli in Alberobello were being constructed in a specific way. Trulli were being constructed from roughly worked limestone, because this material could be easily dismantled and later reused for reconstruction of the dwellings. Because of the jiggery-pokery of their landlord, the inhabitants of Alberobello have already been living in trulli for several centuries. Up to the mid-17th century, there were only several dozen trulli in the area. But during the following century, the population of the town rapidly increased. By the end of the 18th century, the town had a population of 3,500 inhabitants. In 1797, Alberobello was finally granted a status of a town, but up to that date its population was living in trulli, which could be easily and quickly disassembled if it was necessary. Today, Alberobello is one of the best preserved historical urban areas of this type in Europe. The historical value of the town increases because the Alberobello trulli are still serving as houses for the local population. Undoubtedly, the sole reason most people come to Alberobello is to wander the trulli-lined streets. There is, after all, no other place like this in the world. Once you arrive in the town center, it's immediately clear where to head, the Rione Monte quarter within the trulli zone. Up a slight hill, it contains over 1,000 trulli and almost no other type of building style. It is touristy, with gift shops on every other doorway, but it is also very, very pretty. If you're short, then walking amongst the trulli here will also make you feel like a giant. The best plan is to have no plan and simply meander and wander to your heart's content, finding the odd quiet street or ridiculously photogenic nook off the main thoroughfare. When in Rione Monte, shop owners will sit or stand outside in the sunshine and try to tempt you inside for a look around. There's obviously a hope that you may buy something, but there isn't a hard sell, and it offers an opportunity to see how these buildings are structured inside. Tourism is clearly the lifeblood of the economy in Alberobello, so do try to contribute if you find something you like or want a souvenir. For a more authentic sense of what it means to live amongst the trulli, head across to the Rione Aia Piccola district, which has 500 or so trulli and is less commercialized. It was here where people enjoyed time most, catching a glimpse of locals who still call these gnome-sized buildings home, and elderly groups of Italian men out for a stroll in the streets that were theirs long before the tourists arrived. It also affords you the best views over the clustered trolley patches of Alberobello. The rest of Alberobello is mostly normal buildings, but with trolley popping up picturesquely here and there. Behind the large town church, the Chiesa dei Santi Medici Cosma e Damiano are small lanes of trolley leading to Trullo Sovrano. This is a Trullo house on the grand scale, which is furnished with period fittings. It forms an interesting contrast to the smaller houses and makes living in a Trullo seem a very comfortable proposition. Unusually, it is a two-story building. There are information boards with quaint English translations. A spy hole next to the door allowed residents to inspect their visitors and, according to the information board, in extreme cases to shoot any ill-intentioned arrivals. From the church along street, Corso Vittorio Emanuele leads down through town towards the main trolley areas. It's quite a gracious street with a few bars, shops, and restaurants dotted along it, and is much favored by the elderly men who pass their time in small groups on benches and pavements. The main town square, Piazza del Popolo, is a pleasant open space with tables and benches for watching the world go by. Just beyond this, next to the Church of Santa Lucia, is a belvedere offering good views over the trolley, which seem even more pixie-like and weird when viewed en masse like this. Nearby is the town museum, the Museo del Territorio. This is a rather fabulous structure of over 10 combined trolley. It contains small displays of agricultural and building equipment, a couple of rooms recreated in period style which give a good idea of how inhabitants used to live, and some spires from the tops of trolley. Alberobello has a few other small museums, as well as the mini trolley which bill themselves as museums or show trolley but are basically just souvenir shops. There is a museum of olive oil, a museum of wine, and a museum of handicrafts. Since the tourist industry here is still developing, one suspects that there will soon be more. The main tourist information office is at the Casa d'Amore, just off Piazza del Popolo. However, when we visited, the staff were not terribly knowledgeable, couldn't understand a desire to explore the local countryside on foot, and were able to provide no more information than a photocopied town plan with English notes. Alberobello is a fairly quiet little place, and after a day wandering among trolley, you may be ready for more exploring. The best way to experience trolley is to stay in one. Rather than snatching a look around a Trullo shop, you can get an idea of what a Trullo is like as a home, and of course feel superior to day trippers with plain and boring hotels. There are a few hotels which do have some Trullo accommodation, but a comfortable and affordable alternative is to stay in a self-catering Trullo apartment.